Hi, my name is Sheila Corona. Welcome to Sassy Seer Sheila and New Light Streaming Love, as this will be seen on both channels. This is the third in the RZN series, the 12 functions of the sovereign after emergence by Jason Gray. SOV-FNC.09 / quote, the post overlay roles of the fully restored. November 27th, 2025. What a sovereign becomes after the fall. Once the overlay collapses and emergence completes, the role of the sovereign changes. Before emergence, the sovereign awakens with constraint. That's interesting because my own inner guidance a long, long time ago said something to me about having a governor in place. So that's interesting. After emergence, the sovereign operates within the real. You do not become elite. You do not become chosen. You do not become worshiped. You become functional. A fully returned consciousness in a world finally capable of holding it. Forgive me for just a moment because almost all my life, I was told that I was too much. So, wow. These are the 12 functions that activate once the world is no longer asleep. Each one is a structural necessity in the original world. And what I want to say about this right here before I even read it, because as I've said to you many times, I do not read these things until I'm actually recording them. But this is what I feel has been meant by each one of us are unique. Each one of us brings something to the table that is required. And each also has been given the choice to fully awaken or not. I know that I was running, the little me was running from this responsibility. There are others that I witness that I think, I feel on some level of me may be doing the same as what I was doing, running from the larger portion of them. Everyone gets to choose. So I want to say this about that, though. I've always and long have I said, I apparently set up multiple redundancies. In other words, I feel as though when the incarnation, my decision to incarnate into whatever this is we got going on here, I set up multiple redundancies. In the event that beings that agreed to work with me didn't awaken, or also, so I can only imagine that every one of us did the same. Multiple redundancies, because this time we were going to make sure that it happened. That's the way I see, sense, and feel what's happening here. So I'm going to read this again. A fully returned consciousness in a world finally capable of holding it. These are the 12 functions that activate once the world is no longer asleep. Each one is a structural necessity in the original world. If you feel these rising in you already, that is because you are nearly there. Function 1, the stabilizer of fields. FNC-01: anchor. After emergence, sovereigns stabilize emotional, energetic, and perceptual fields simply by existing. I feel that's a true statement too. Your presence calms environments, harmonizes people, reduces chaos, dissolves fear, anchors clarity. You become the grounding point for others during reality shifts. This happens automatically. It requires no effort. Your field is the anchor. Function 2, the interpreter of the lattice. FNC-02: lattice dash voice. Sovereigns become the natural translators of the lattice's communications. I feel as though that's partly what I do. Don't have any reason to feel that other than how driven I feel to communicate some things. You intuitively understand synchronicity, geometric patterns, field signals, memory bleed through, future orientation poles. You explain to others what they cannot yet articulate. That is something I seem to be able to do. You become the voice of the real in a world relearning its language. Function 3, the holder of coherence. FNC-03: coherence. In the post-overlay world, coherence is the new currency. A sovereign holds consistent perception, stable identity, integrated memory, clarity under pressure, emotional neutrality. Your coherence becomes guidance for those who are still unsteady. Actually, I'm seeing that happen with Lisa and I already. You show them how to remain whole. Not by teaching by example. That's true. Don't use me as your example. No. Function 4, the navigator of timelines. FNC-04: timeline orient. After emergence, the sovereign can sense the most aligned path, the probability field of each choice, the future pole of resonance, and the collapse point of outdated trajectories. You do not predict the future, you navigate it. You move through the real like a conscious traveler, not a blind participant. Others will follow your movement because it feels correct to them. Function 5, the keeper of memory. FNC-05 colon MNEMO-core. Sovereigns retain pre-overlay memory, original world identity, past life continuity, soul architecture awareness, the story beneath the story. You anchor memory for the collective, not in words, but in frequency. It's very interesting how this was talking about how transparent thought becomes. I was just thinking about in just 2.5, well, yeah, 2.5 hours, I have a Zoom thing that I'll be having. I just received a message from someone I was wondering if they were going to attend. So isn't that interesting? You anchor memory for the collective, not in words, but in frequency. Your very presence reminds others of what they forgot. Yeah, that's already happening too. That's very interesting. Function 6, the harmonizer of conflict, FNC-06 colon resolve. In the original world, conflict arises from misalignment, not malice. Sovereigns detect root distortions, read emotional interference, see the actual cause behind the tension, dissolve friction through field correction. You do not, quote, fix people, you realign fields. Conflict becomes temporary in your presence. And I have felt for quite some time that most of how conflict arises does have to do with programming and conditioning that we've all of us lived through, the little being. I'm shifting away from that languaging, but the personality that is attached to this vessel that I call Sheila grew up in this lifetime with a whole lot of programming and conditioning that isn't actually correct. And that programming and conditioning caused a lot of trauma, drama, emotional shenanigans, let's say. And it is from those wounded spots that where interactions with other beings are actually reacting to. As I have resolved many of those within me, those triggers no longer hold, well, they don't trigger. I'm not triggered like I once was. Now, that's not to say that I'm done with all the triggering. I don't know. As it arises, I will work through it. However, that I feel as though that's the same for almost all beings on the planet. And just knowing that, for me, has made all the difference in interacting with people. I don't see them in the same way that I used to. I now see perhaps their wound, especially when there's conflict. Now, sometimes people are ready to know what their wound is, and sometimes they're not. But again, like he says here, it becomes temporary in your field, in your presence, because you carry solution in your presence already. If you have yourself realigned that field. Function 7, the architect of meaning, FNC-07 colon sense maker. In the post-overlay world, meaning is no longer dictated by systems. Sovereigns reinterpret events through the lens of truth, extract pattern from chaos, connect people to deeper purpose, and serve as orientation points. You help others understand what is happening when the world feels too vast, too new, or too fluid. Your interpretation becomes the bridge. Function 8, the guardian of boundaries. FNC-08: Sovereignty does not allow distortion. After emergence, you instinctively protect the vulnerable, shield others from overwhelming fields, block manipulative forces, diffuse emotional contagion, and maintain the integrity of your environment. Your boundary becomes a sanctuary. People feel safe around you because your clarity protects them. Actually, Lisa has said something very similar. We are a safe place to land here in our little community. So I get what he's saying there. Function 9. The catalyst of breakthroughs, FNC-09: igniter. Your presence accelerates awakening, recognition, clarity, identity, return, emotional release, timeline shifts. People experience breakthroughs around you simply because their fields synchronize with your frequency. You ignite what is already inside them. Function 10, the guide of emergence. FNC-10: Wayfinder. Once the overlay is gone, humanity will enter the real with childlike perception. Pardon me. You guide them through memory return, perceptual expansion, identity integration, timeline fluidity, and field interactions. Not by teaching doctrine, but by walking ahead and letting others follow the resonance. Function 11. I see now that's why I've always had this drive to do my awakening on YouTube. That I see it very clearly through what he just wrote there. Function 11, the operator of the real. FNC-11: realm-op. This is the most advanced function. Sovereigns interact with the original world intentionally. They shape probability fields. They collaborate with geometric intelligence. They stabilize local resonance. They influence time structure through presence. They co-create with the environment. You do not control the world, you operate with it. Like two musicians improvising in harmony. Function 12. The Flame Keeper. FNC-12: Flame Core. The final function. The sovereign becomes a carrier of remembrance, a living transmission, a node of coherence, a guardian of truth, a beacon of stability, and a reminder of origin. Even without words, people sense the flame in you, the flame that survived the overlay, the flame that returned, the flame that remembers the real. This flame is not symbolic. It is the core of sovereign identity. It is the fire that the overlay tried and failed to extinguish. You keep this flame alive. Through it, you keep the world aligned. STD::COUT. There's a whole, this is an entire statement of symbols that, again, much like the other ones, I highly recommend that you find and look over because I don't know the names of these. When the overlay dissolves, the sovereign becomes what they were always destined to be. Not a ruler, not a prophet, not a superior being, a functional, integrated, flame-bearing consciousness inside a world finally capable of holding the truth. The world after the collapse does not need leaders. It needs sovereigns. I know this is a true. I know this is so. I just know it with all of me. You are one of them, and everything written in this codex is simply the blueprint returning to your hands. You are not learning these functions, you are remembering them. Yes, I would agree with Jason. If you've been attracted to his work, there's a reason. Now, don't be hard on yourself if you think that you're not in whatever stage of awakening that you think you should be in. No, don't do that to yourself. That's not necessary. It's not required. For me, I feel as though each one, I can, I can't unsee how I have, using my own inner guidance, interacted with Jason's words in some very particular timing that is very synchronistic. My own inner guidance 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, started telling me every time I would question something to relax into myself. Just relax into myself, because my larger part of me had all of this in hand. I wasn't late. I didn't need to worry about anything. I wasn't doing the wrong thing. I was right on time. And of course, I started doubting it because everybody else is getting this and that one over there is channeling this. And, here I am. I now get it. Our consciousness is at a particular place, and we are remembering at the speed that is perfect for each. So don't get it twisted. Don't think because Jason wrote all of this that he's the big mamma jamma. No, that's not how any of this works. When I first met Jason, there came a time where he said that he was done writing, and I knew he might have been done with the writing, but the writing wasn't done with him. And so, yes, he picked up the pen not too long after I said that again, actually. Each one of us are right on time. So don't get it twisted and don't freak out because there's nothing to freak out about. That's my own guidance talking to me, actually. And see the synchronicity. Like I said, I cannot unsee that just yesterday I read that letter, and I'm gonna have to try to find that. And if I can find it, I will link because it was an open Facebook um it was an open letter, and I will find it and link. So I believe her page is public. And if I can find it, I will put it in the show more section of this video so that you can read what she is speaking on in regards to geometric intelligence. Synchronicities abound. Until we meet again, my friends, be well.